Swedish with Joanna, a podcast for beginners. Hello everyone and welcome back. I hope you're doing well today. Jag hoppas att ni mår bra idag. In today's episode, we're going to talk about how to talk about problems in Swedish, but not in a simplified way, because how you talk about a problem depends very much on the situation. There is a big difference between talking to, let's say, your boss, confronting someone directly, and talking to a friend about a personal issue. And before I continue, I think we can all agree that it really depends on the situation, on how you talk about problems. In a workplace or formal setting, for example, the goal is often to be clear, be taken seriously, and avoid unnecessary escalation. Here, Swedish often sounds more neutral and structured. So when we Swedes, for example, talk about a problem at our workplace, common expressions usually are "Det finns ett problem." Det finns ett problem. There is a problem. Det här fungerar inte. Det här fungerar inte. This doesn't work. Jag vill ta upp ett problem. Jag vill ta upp ett problem. I want to talk about a problem. So the focus here is on the issue, not your emotions per se. But even if we all know that your emotions is involved in the issue, but I think you understand my point. We also have situations where you need to take responsibility for your actions. And sometimes responsibility is very clear. And I would say responsibility often tend to be very clear, but most people usually avoid responsibility. But in those cases, Swedish does not avoid direct language. You might hear expressions like "Det här är inte okej." Det här är inte okej. Det här är inte okej. This is not okay. Det här behöver ändras. Det här behöver ändras. Det här behöver ändras. This needs to change. Du kan inte göra så här. Du kan inte göra så här. Du kan inte göra så här. You can't do this. And this is not being aggressive. This is being direct and straightforward in your language. But as a Swede myself, I can tell you that coming from someone who is being direct in her language most of the time in my communication, most Swedes are not used with direct communication because most people are so afraid of conflict. But this is not about conflict. It's to be direct in your communication and being straightforward. But there's so many people out there nowadays who are not being direct and straightforward. And when these people meet someone who is being direct and straightforward in their language, they assume that this person is being aggressive towards them. When it comes to a direct conflict, on the other hand, especially when someone has crossed a boundary, Swedish can be very straightforward. Here, clarity is more important than politeness. The language becomes shorter and firmer. As I mentioned earlier, I have no problem with this when it comes to conflict, because I'm not afraid of conflicts, because I am very straightforward and clear in my communication in everyday life. But I'm aware that most people struggle with this. Another situation when talking about personal problems, relationships, emotions, stress, etc., the language changes again. Here the goal is often to explain, reflect, or vent. Common expressions here are usually "Jag har problem med." Jag har problem med. I have a problem with. Jag har problem med. Det känns jobbigt. Det känns jobbigt. It feels hard. Det känns jobbigt. Jag vet inte hur jag ska hantera det. Jag vet inte hur jag ska hantera det. I don't know how to handle this or that. Jag vet inte hur jag ska hantera det. This is not about blame, but about sharing. When you try to open up yourself and are at your most vulnerable state and want to just release all the emotions that you are bearing within yourself. An important point, there is no single Swedish way to talk about problems. And I don't think there is such thing in no language. Swedish changes depending on the situation, the relationship you have with the speaker and the listener, of course, and what you want to achieve. Knowing when to be neutral and when to be direct is part of learning the language. So, to summarize, talking about problems in Swedish is not about avoiding conflict, it's about choosing the right language for the right situation. With that said, it's time to wrap up today's episode. Thank you so much for taking your time joining me today. If you enjoy my work and want to support the podcast, you can always become a member on Patreon. On Patreon, you'll get access to all the transcripts and vocabulary lists for each episode. Thank you so much for listening today, and I'll see you in the next episode!